Most people think that Rose from the movie of James Cameron, Titanic, was prototype of Charlotte Collyer. Charlotte was from England, just like Rose. If you look to the photo of 1912, the heroine of Kate Winslet, Rose, is something like Charlotte. Long curly hair, straight facial features. Besides, a lot of interesting things from the story of Charlotte was in the movie. We don't know, but it looks like James Cameron was inspired by this real story from Charlotte about the last day, the real Titanic. Charlotte, her husband, and daughter were second-class passengers. More than 1,500 passengers and crew, including her husband, perished on that dreadful, cold night. Charlotte Collyer was one of the survivors of the terrible disaster. Out of all the survivors who were photographed after the disaster of Titanic, faces Charlotte Collyer and her daughter Marjorie show the biggest stress and the terrible trauma the woman and children lived through on that fateful night. They lost everything: beloved husband and father Harvey Collyer, all their money, $5,000 in cash, and hope for a new life. Before we tell you the most heartbreaking real story of women who survived of the Titanic, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for notification. Let's begin. Charlotte was working as a domestic cook for the Church of England, where met her future husband, Harvey Collyer, who was a clergyman. The couple had one child, a daughter Marjorie, born in 1904. Soon Mrs. Collier began having respiratory problems and became afflicted with tuberculosis, at which point they decided to buy a fruit farm in Idaho, where they hoped the climate would be beneficial in the same valley as their friends in America. Mr. Collier drew from the bank the family's entire life savings, including the money from the sale of their store. He took the money in cash instead of the bank draft and put the money in the inner pocket of his jacket. The Titanic was wonderful, far more splendid and huge than I had dreamed of. It's like a floating town. You would not imagine you were on a ship. I don't remember very much about the first few days of the voyage. I was a bit seasick and kept to my cabin most of the time. But on Sunday, April 14, I ate the best dinner in my life that money could buy. After I had eaten, I listened to the orchestra for a while. Then, at perhaps 9 o'clock, I went to my cabin. Soon the stewardess came to me. She was a sweet woman who had been very kind to me. I take this opportunity to thank her, for I shall never see her again. She went down with the Titanic. "Do you know where we are?" she said pleasantly. "We are in what is called the Devil's Hole." "What does it mean?" I asked. "That is the dangerous part of the ocean," she answered. "Many accidents have happened near here. They say that icebergs drift down as far as this. It's getting to be very cold on deck, so perhaps there's ice around us now." She left the cabin. Her talk about icebergs had not frightened me, but it shows that the crew were awake to the danger. As far as I can tell, we had not slackened our speed in the least. It must have been a little after 10 o'clock when my husband came in and woke me up. And then the crash. The sensation to me was as if the ship had been seized by a giant hand and shaken once, twice, then stopped dead in its course. That is to say, there was a long backward jerk, followed by a shorter forward one. We noticed that the engines had ceased running. They tried to start the engines a few minutes later, but after some coughing and rumbling, there was silence once more. My husband put on his coat and went on deck. When he back, he reported, "What do you think? We've struck an iceberg, a big one, but there's no danger. An officer told me so." "Other people frightened?" I asked quietly. "No," he replied. "If people were not worried, why should I be?" But suddenly we heard hundreds of people running along the passageway in front of our door. "We had all better to go on deck and see what's wrong," he said. By this time, although the boat had not made any progress, it seemed to have tilted forward a little. I caught up my daughter, just as she was, in her nightgown, wrapped a white star cabin blanket around her, and started out of the door. My husband followed immediately behind, and I remembered that we even left his watch lying on his pillow. When we reached the second cabin promenade deck, we found a great many people there. Some officers were walking up and down and shouting, "There is no danger, no danger." Suddenly there was a commotion near one of the gangways, and we saw a stoker. All the fingers of one hand had been cut off. He screamed with Irish dialect, "This boat will sink like a log in 10 minutes. At that moment, I got my first grip of fear, awful, sickening fear. I hung on to my husband's arm. I saw that his face was as white as a paper. At that moment, we realized that the accident was much worse than we had supposed. But even then, I did not believe that Titanic could go down. "Lower the boats, women and children first." These words struck utter terror into my heart, and now they will ring in my ears until I die. They meant my own safety, but they also meant the greatest loss I have ever suffered, the life of my husband. I could have had a seat in that second boat, but I refused to go. It was filled at last and disappeared over the side with a rush. The third boat was about half full when a sailor caught Marjorie, tore her away from me, and threw her into the boat. She was not even given a chance to tell her father goodbye. "You too," a man yelled close to my ear. "You're a woman. Take a seat in that boat, or it will be too late." I clung desperately to my husband. I do not know what I said. I did not want to leave him. A man seized me by the arm. Then another threw both his arms about my waist and dragged me away by main street. I heard my husband say, "Go, Lottie, for God's sake, be brave and go. I'll get a seat in another boat." I let myself be saved because I believed that he too would escape. But I sometimes envy those whom no earthly power could tear from their husbands' arms. The bottom of our boat slapped the ocean. We were drenched with ice-cold spray. It was then that I saw for the first time the iceberg that had done such terrible damage. I shall never forget the terrible beauty of the Titanic at that moment. No sound reached us, except the music of the band, which I seemed, strange to say, to be aware of for the first time. Oh, those brave musicians! How wonderful they were! They were playing lovely tunes, ragtime, and they kept it up to the very end. Only the engulfing ocean had power to drown them into silence. It came with a deafening roar that stunned me. Something in the very bowels of the Titanic exploded, and millions of sparks shot up to the sky like rockets in the park on the night of a summer holiday. The Titanic broke in two before my eyes. The fore part was already partly under the water. It wallowed over and disappeared instantly. The stern reared straight on end and stood poised on the ocean. For many seconds, they seemed minutes to me. It was only then that the electric lights on board went out. Before the darkness came, I saw hundreds of human bodies clinging to the wreck or leaping into the water. People had broken their silence now. Cries more terrible than I had ever heard rang in my ears. I turned my face away, but looked round the next instant, and saw the second half of the great boat slip below the surface as easily as a pebble in a pond. I shall always remember that last moment as the most hideous of the whole disaster. The officers refused to help the screaming men in the water, fearing that they would flood the boats in panic. They went in search of other lifeboats that had escaped. We found 4 or 5, and Mr. Lowe took command of the little fleet. He ordered that the boats should be linked together with ropes so as to prevent any one of them from drifting away and losing itself in the darkness. This proved to be a very good plan and made our rescue all the more certain when the Carpathia came. He then, with great difficulty, distributed most of the women in our boat among the other craft. This took perhaps half an hour. It gave him an almost empty boat, and as soon as possible he cut loose, and we went in search of survivors. They saved some people from the water. All my memories are hazy until the Carpathia arrived at dawn. They let down rope ladders to us, but the women were so weak that it is a marvel that some of them did not lose their hold and drop back into the water. When it came to saving the babies and young children, the difficulty was even greater, as no one was strong enough. Someone let down empty United States mail bags. In these bags, little babies were beamed aboard the ship. One of the desks of the Carpathia, we could only rush frantically from group to group, searching the haggard faces, crying out names and endless questions. I had a husband to search for. I really had believed he survived in one of the boats. He was not there. And it's with these words that I can best end my story of the Titanic. In April 21, Charlotte wrote a heartbreaking letter to her mother. "Oh, Mother, how can I live without him? I wish I'd gone with him. I should have stayed and gone with him. The agony of that night can never be told. Marjorie don't realize yet that her daddy is in heaven." Her daughter told the story of the newspaper Brooklyn Daily Eagle. "I had a big doll that I got 2 Christmases before, and we were in such a hurry that I left it behind. I cried for my doll, but we couldn't go back. The doll went down with the Titanic." Maybe this episode James Cameron used in his movie when he shows us all that's left of the doll. The newspaper received from readers $1,965 for the benefit of Mrs. Collier. They were at first unwilling to return to England, feeling that the husband would have wished them to carry out his original plan. But after a short residence in the West, she decided to return to her family in England. Towards the end of 1914, and even though she was slowly dying of tuberculosis. Charlotte was remarried. Her new husband was a man from Liverpool named James Ashbrook Holm, who was a licensed victualler. Charlotte succumbed to the tuberculosis which had plagued her on 28 November 1916, age 35. Her second husband, James Holm, died less than 3 years later, leaving little Marjorie to be raised by her uncle, Walter Collier, a gamekeeper, and his family who lived on a farm. Marjorie's time there is not believed to have been a happy one, but she remained there until she was married on 25 December 1927. She wed a London-born mechanic, the son of the shipping clerk. The couple were wed St. Mary and St. Nicholas Church, the same church Marjorie's parents had married in. Marjorie and Roy settled in Chilworth, and they had one child who died in infancy. Marjorie was widowed when her husband Roy died, aged only 41. She never remarried and continued to live in Chilworth. In later years, and unable to care for herself, Marjorie was moved to a nursing home in Hampshire. She died there following a stroke on 26 February 1965, aged 61.